Today on Locked On Rockies, exactly that is what Germán Márquez is capable of.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 29th day of August in the year 2022. I'm Paul Holden, your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies conversation right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Just search Locked On Rockies. You'll be taken to where you need to go. You can also find us streaming live on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockies. Your subscription there is a big-time help. Well, who am I? I'm your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden. Been following this team all my life, covering them the past 2 years here on the network, and we've been talking daily Rockies. I think I might be in the history. I wonder where I'm ranking now in the Rockies hosts of the Locked On Rockies podcast. We've been having some fun navigating what has been two interesting, really kind of in a lot of ways frustrating seasons as well. But we've had a lot of fun breaking things down together. And one of the most frustrating things this year has been bad Germán Márquez. I have to come abundantly clean. I love Germán Márquez. I think there are great. I know the concerns are there. We've seen the regression this year, but Germán Márquez is probably my favorite pitcher I've watched for the Rockies since Ubaldo Jimenez, and maybe my favorite Rockies starter to watch of all time. I just find him to be a dominant force, but when he's on, like he was last night, he's got such a great carry to the game. The way the team really feeds off of his energy, really uses Germán Márquez. And watching him blow people away with 99-mile-an-hour fastballs up in the zone, that's what I'm trying to see. That's the Germán Márquez that we know. And that's the Germán Márquez that we've seen, but we haven't been able to see enough of. We haven't seen the consistency. We haven't been able to get enough long-term consistency from Germán Márquez. He is often slow to start the year, but from being the team's sole all-star last year to where he's at now, and to see what happens and to hear how frustrated he is has been tough for me. Easily one of my least favorite parts of this season. Has been regression from Germán Márquez. He was doing really well. I didn't really think of it, but I had said my huge big bold take for this year was Germán Márquez was going to throw a no-hitter, and I still think he is the Rockies pitcher most capable of doing that. Just because when that fastball's on, when he is striking batters out, when he looks like he did yesterday, that's what I'm trying to see. It was a really, really, really cool to see him go up against like Márquez. He had struck out 5, and that knuckle curve. The knuckle curve was working wonderful with him. 4 of his 5 strikeouts yesterday come on the knuckle curve. He just had great control, great velocity, and the way he was attacking the plate, everything looked wonderful. I mean, he would have been the star of the game if he wasn't going up against one of the best in the business on the other side. And that kind of, can get a little more, maybe tamper down things a little bit. But the Rockies' one win of this weekend comes from Germán Márquez doing the work for the Rockies. It's clear what good Germán Márquez can do for the Rockies, what it means for the Rockies when Germán Márquez goes out on the road and has a good start. The Rockies went up against a good team there with sweep on their minds, with good winning baseball in their recent record, and Márquez was able to shut him down. That is why you have confidence and faith in Germán Márquez. That's why he's capable of that. the lack of consistency will deny him of the true ace, the true big name in the big picture and the big scheme of things. But you have confidence in Germán Márquez being on your rotation because he can do stuff like that. He can go up against one of the best in the business, go mano a mano, and then shut down the team that has won 3 of 4 already. It was a good win. That was a good win for Germán. And one other note, I guess, too, about that game was it was nice to see the Rockies win a close one-run ball game. The shutout obviously is icing on the cake, especially that Mets lineup. That's not an easy lineup to shut out. That's a team that scores, and the Rockies had to deal with it and get out of some situations, which they did. It is really, really, really it shows you when some of these players are on what they're capable of. It was a great performance from the bullpen in yesterday's game as well. When you see Carlos Estevez and Daniel Bard come in to combine and shut the door to two pitchers that have both had their ups and downs. I've been very hard on Carlos Estevez for sure, but credit where credit's due. He's pitched pretty well. He's got that velocity up. Of late, we've seen Estevez struggle this year, but for Estevez to come out and get 2 strikeouts in the inning, Bard gets the strikeout, gets out of the jam there with some early traffic. It definitely was a nice, good, solid team win yesterday. It was something that you can kind of feel good about because it takes away the sting of last weekend. And the thing I want to talk about the most from the weekend, honestly, outside of Márquez's performance there, was the game that got away from the Rockies, and why that's a good summary of this season. Before we do that, Tanner Crew in the live chat says the 2021 Márquez was the best Rockies pitcher since Jimenez. The number 48 was so recognizable. Yeah, Germán was so dominant last year. I mean, he was special to watch. I got to watch him throw a really good game in Seattle. He has the ability to become watch TV when he is on. He is an elite pitcher, and again, it's great that the Rockies went up there. I mean, all in all, for that weekend, there could have been it could have been a lot worse this weekend, even with the record. I'm going to answer Tanner's next question here in just a moment, but before we do that, are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit. It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high. Get a DUI. Tanner Crew in the live chat says, we saw a flicker of the 2021 Germán Márquez in yesterday's game. Do you think he will be the same Márquez from 21? I think he has the possibility to get there. I think he still has the talent. I think he still has the velocity and he still has the control. But really, the big question is, especially you're hoping that this is being asked of Rockies management, is what's the impact of this new coaching staff? What's the impact of this new Rockies pitching coach that came in this year and changed things up? It's Steve Foster comes in, and he, after being in the bullpen coach the last 2 years, a bullpen that notoriously underperformed, then gets called up to the starting job. And the Rockies rotation is all of them were on pace to have their worst or their second worst careers of all time. The Rockies can't sit here and say on paper the 2021 Rockies and the 2022 Rockies are very similar and they just played bad on the road and they had the right pieces, blah, blah, blah. In 2021, the Rockies were better at pitching, much better at pitching. They had good starts. They had John Gray in the lineup, who is better than Chad Kuhl and Jose Urena. It's not even a question. And the Rockies, when we were doing the coin flip of, if they won a couple more games, they'd be in this situation. Versus this year, the Rockies are 20 games below 500 right now. Or are they officially now 20 games below 500? No, not yet. They avoided it. They are 55 and 74. They're not 20 games below, but they're 18 games below 500. Pitchers were on track to have their either the worst or the second worst career statistic season of their careers. And the bullpen has blown a ton of opportunities. The Rockies, I don't have the stat, but I did see something about how bad the Rockies were in one-run games. And that all can be attributed to, I mean, I guess it can't all. That's where I guess it leads my question. What's the big difference this year? New head pitching coach, new direction. By new direction, it's you're promoting from within. You didn't go with that. If you again just promoted from within, another inside the organization Rockies hire, and this is it. I mean, look at what the Rockies rotation is. I mean, look at this is not the playoff caliber rotation. I'm going to say it again. The stats are bad. The Rockies overall rank bad in pitching. I think the Rockies have better pitchers, but I really think that the conversations, the questions have to be asked about the impact of Scott of Frost and his promotion to the pitching staff, that the head of the pitching staff. I think that is something that you really gotta wonder. I mean, it's something that the loyalty there, that is on the nose. There's a lot of on the nose example of the Rockies being bit by their loyalty, but it's again right here. The Rockies were able to change the pitching narrative at Coors Field. The rotation of the Rockies when they were making the playoffs and when they were more of a contending team, what was of good benefit to the Rockies finally had pitching. Yes, they still struggle on the road. Yes, all those things. The Rockies pitchers still had their issues, but they were good. You liked the rotation. You liked the way it went. You had faith in Freeland, Gray, Senza, Marquez. You had confidence in them and their abilities to keep the Rockies in games. It was really a lack of a power bat from the first base and catcher position and a bullpen that underperformed that really sunk you. The starters for the Rockies weren't necessarily an issue, and the narrative was you could finally point to and say it was changing with this rotation and with the success. But now that's not the case. The Rockies are not good at pitching this year, and they just made a change. And maybe that change was not the right one to make. The Rockies only win one game against the Mets this weekend, but in reality, the tough one was the Friday game. The Rockies fought. The Rockies really played a game of baseball against some of the best in the business, and then it all blew up. The Rockies. Why the one thing that on top of everything, why we have to talk about this and the players and some of this, the Rockies just aren't clutch. They weren't able to keep the game, prevent themselves from exploding in the end of the game here, allowing 3 runs in the 8th and the 9th. This is where good teams like the Mets won that game because they're a good team, because they're a complete team, because they have depth, because they have the mindset, they have the drive, and they have the construction, and they have the momentum to go out and win that game and steal that game back when the Rockies played a really nice game. But the Mets just played a better game. And again, it's a simple example, but that's a team. That's a team in the thick of a playoff race. That's a team that's changed its mentality with new ownership about what it is to be on the Mets and with the Mets right now. The Mets are trying to win. The Mets are trying to go out and make sure that they are a dominant force in the National League West. That's what their new owner set out to do, and that's what this new owner has been able to build. When you compare it to the current philosophy, the current mindset, and the way the Rockies have been running, it's the opposite. The Mets have had a long history of being a joke team, I shouldn't say a joke team, a team that others make jokes at the expense of, and a lot of feelings that I'm sure Rockies fans can relate to. But now that's changed, and it's changed, and you saw how quickly it's changed. And you saw how quickly it can change when the people in charge have the mindset of trying to win, of winning is important to him. He is a rich man. He does not care about the business side of the game as much. I'm sure it's a big part of it too. But the guy that runs the Mets is able to go out there and just focus on winning and have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer on the same team. And that it's not even counting the offense. It's not even counting the bullpen for the Mets. That's a philosophy of winning. And it's not just spending money. And yet you can say that it might be. It's not, though. It's also a dedication. The way you're spending the money is in a way that says win, bringing in the right players, willing to take the risks on some of these contracts. We can't sit there and applaud the Rockies for going out and get Chris Bryant when and then shy away from the fact that the Mets and these other teams have the money and the ability to go out and offer some of these contracts. Yes, the big markets are lucrative. Yes, that stuff is there. And as much as it is something you have to consider and it's something to think about, in a bigger picture, sure, it doesn't drive them. It doesn't make their ownership bad when they have the ability. The Dodgers ownership isn't bad because they have more money and the ability to get all those players. What's most frustrating is the Rockies have more power than some of the teams that honestly and truly struggle with the attendance, the money, all the other issues, but they don't do anything with it. The Rockies can't sit there and cry a foul about pandemic costs and then go out and sign Chris Bryant to that type of money, while also signing all of the players that they also signed back for multi-year deals. The Mets have an understanding of winning. That guy, the ownership, the dude that came in, the owner of the Mets, wanted to bring in winners. Dick Monfort wants to recognize and honor his loyalty, his employees, the people that have worked under him. How many times has a position open for the Rockies this year that's been filled from within the organization? Scott Frost, the analytics, Bill Schmidt, everybody. That's because it's just the business for Dick and the ownership of the Rockies. And business is booming. Business is doing great. For the Mets, for that front office, that's a front office and an organizational philosophy that is about winning. The construction on the team, the way the teams were handled, the late things, you can see how there are two teams in two drastically different positions. A team that's buying in and that's going for it, and a team that's still trying to figure out and had an opportunity to buy in and go for it. The Rockies very much could be like the Mets right now when you're talking about the talent that could be on the team and still there. But instead, we are in the situation we are in. Tough weekend in terms of losses. That one on Friday, the worst of the bunch, without a doubt. Tonight, can the Rockies go into Atlanta and steal some wins? We shall see. Let's dive into that. But first, okay, Rockies Braves tonight. Jose Urena 2-5 on the mound, taking on Max Fried at 12-4, 2.52 ERA, 140 Ks. The Rockies going up against great elite pitching isn't going away, as they are down now in Atlanta, a team that is probably glad to see the Rockies because they need to use all the chances they can get to make up the time that the Mets just spent beating up on the Rockies to climb their way back into that first place position mark there in the NL East. And let's see here. Fried, really, really good. The Rockies, not an RBI off of Fried, with some Rockies having around 5 at-bats, some having a little bit less. So there's been people that have seen Fried, but they're, he's very, very good. Jose Urena on the other side. Ronald Acuna Jr. is hit pretty well against Jose here, batting .235 with a home run and 2 RBIs. Dansby Swanson batting 250 with 20 at-bats against Jose here. So lots more experience for the Braves on their side in the pitching matchup tonight. Rockies also going up against yet another really, really good arm there in Atlanta. The Rockies are going to need to either get a great pitching performance and hang on like they did last night, or hope they get a little bit more from their offense and see who can come alive to get the Rockies the runs that they need. But folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for tuning in and joining the show today. Make sure that you're staying up to date with all things baseball with the Locked On MLB podcast. You can also follow Locked On Broncos, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Avalanche so you can stay up to date with all things Colorado sports. And if you like the show, you can follow us on Twitter at LO Rockies. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On